Hello, this is Nana interviewing Zai.
Hello Nana, nice to meet you.
I just want to ask you a few questions because I know that you work at a law firm.
I work for a global tax firm.
Okay, thank you. What made you want to study law in university?
I think my journey started off really shaky, if I'm honest. I studied theatre first, so I did theatre studies, and I went to the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and I studied acting, but I didn't finish. I felt like it wasn't for me, and so I took a gap year, and after the gap year I decided to study law. Initially I ran away from the concept of law because my father studied law, and he's an exceptionally great lawyer. So I think I felt like I was living in his shadow, and so I didn't feel like I could live up to that expectation. But after the gap year, I found myself, and I knew I was like smart enough to do it, and so I undertook the undergraduate course, which I did do at Anglia Ruskin, and then after that I applied to go to law school. But it was during my undergraduate year that I met Catherine McMahon. She was one of my lecturers. She taught us in family law and media law, and she said she saw something in me, and so that was like confirmation for me, because she was like, I think you'd make an excellent advocate. And so for me that was confirmation, because she is a practicing barrister. So when she said that to me, it was actually when we were doing a mock bail application, and I had to do advocacy. So that's when I decided that I'm actually going to really pursue this. Even though I was in the undergraduate course, I said I'm going to actually pursue this 100%. So that's what made me assertive. But I've always wanted to be like my dad.
Oh, okay.
So,
what inspired you to become a lawyer?
I think, the inspiration came from my dad.
Okay.
I used to see him when I was like 5 years old. He'd be coming home with bundles and bundles of work, and he'd be going through it like on his desk, studying. And I also saw him in court, so I thought, wow, this is amazing. So other than that, I also feel like being a lawyer is also the ability to have a voice for other people who don't have a voice. Because legal language is completely different to layman's language. And what I mean by that is, legal language is a profession where you have to speak to a judge. Say for instance, if you're doing criminal family advocacy, and you have to represent that person who doesn't know anything about law, you take their facts and then you represent their facts in legal terms. So I think that kind of, I would say the word power, because it's power, that kind of power and responsibility means that you have, if you love to represent people, you have the ability to change somebody's outcome in life. So that's what inspires me even more than just, see my dad.
How did you gain a job at your current law firm?
Took years and years of work experience. When I was studying, I made sure I was always either competing, so I did mooting, debating. I did a lot of that to just bulk up on my advocacy, and then after that I started working actually for a US firm as a paralegal. And when I worked as a paralegal, I kept my main agenda was always to become better and not to compete and become like this role or that role. And then the opportunity came when I was a little bit frustrated of working at my second firm, which is also a global firm, but I was frustrated because there was no growth. So they didn't have a growth plan, and a growth plan means you're learning about the trade, the business, commercial awareness, commercial viability. And so I spoke to a few friends, and one of them was like, oh, there's an opportunity, give me your CV. Handed in my CV, and then they told me to apply for the job, but I didn't because I had no time. And then they called me. So they were like, we saw your CV, we really want you to apply. I said, okay, I'll apply. I didn't apply. I was so busy. My current role at my other firm, I was really busy. So my previous role, sorry. So they just sent me a link and they were like, okay, we've entered the main basic stuff. Then they started the interview process. So obviously they really wanted me. So I was like, okay, one of the key things that you do is you go where you're going to be celebrated. You don't go where you're tolerated. So, and this firm where I work now is mega big. They've got a larger footprint, global footprint. And the role I was going to be in was quite a really good role. So I did 3 interviews, no, 2 interviews, no, 3, 1 telephone and 2 in person, and I got the role. So yeah, that's how I got the job.
What's your favourite part of being a lawyer?
My favourite part is I challenge myself. My personality type is that I don't like ignorance, or I don't like being stationary, or I don't like being like this at the same place. I get uncomfortable really quickly. So the role that I'm in now allows me to grow. There's so many facets to it, especially like commercial awareness, commercial viability. Also, not just commercial awareness or viability, but the ability to also increase your knowledge. Because when you get to a certain level in your career, you're no longer focusing on your knowledge, but you're now focusing on your commercial viability, which is now going